Imagine suddenly and unexpectedly discovering that your partner is cheating on you. And your reaction isn't to get angry or outraged or even to cry or break down. Imagine that the first thing you do is say that it's okay, that you're fine. And you focus on taking care of and worrying about the needs of those around you. Some people, when they see you, will think you're crazy. Others will think, oh, what a good and mature person. But none of them are right. What this strange behavior hides is something that many people, without realizing it, apply in their lives, and if it isn't identified and corrected, it can bring big problems. This scene is real, it happened just as I told you. And in this video, we're going to analyze it to understand a concept that I'm sure will shake you up: defensive altruism. I'm Claudia Nicolasa Psicología, psychologist and author of Es Manipulación y No Lo Sabes. Subscribe to learn about psychology, understand yourself, and build healthier relationships.
Lucas, it's your turn.
As you can see, the main character of this analysis is named Lucas, a contestant from Temptation Island. But don't worry, you don't need to watch the show or know the plot, because I'm simply going to use this scene to explain this very interesting concept of defensive altruism to you.
I haven't seen anything that made me think that Yuli is doubting our relationship. I think they're just games and I shouldn't give it any more importance.
We start from an emotional situation where the victim of infidelity doesn't expect it at all. They trust their partner, they're totally in love, they have no worries, no fear, no jealousy.
Lucas, we have footage of Julie for you.
When a painful, traumatic, or threatening event happens completely unexpectedly, it means your system hasn't been able to prepare itself at all, neither to receive the emotional impact nor to process the information that comes with it. And this can partly explain Lucas's strange reaction. Let's take a look.
Oh my God, girl. Yeah.
What is infidelity? If you notice, the first response his body gives is to smile. Obviously, he doesn't find this funny, it doesn't make him happy. It's not a genuine smile, it's a defensive smile, and I think the word defensive is what defines this video and this scene. This smile usually appears involuntarily and automatically in people who are going through a tough time, and unfortunately, they are very misunderstood socially. And you don't care? No, obviously not. I still stand by it. It bothers me how misunderstood they are.
No, obviously not. I still stand by it. It bothers me.
There are a lot of people who are accused of not caring about something, or of making fun of it, or of being inconsiderate or insensitive. When in reality, what's happening is that their brain is trying to calm down, regulate itself, or maybe avoid letting others see their pain.
And this guy doesn't do anything. He's exercising all day long.
It's very interesting that throughout the whole scene you compare how Lucas's fellow contestants behave and also how Sandra behaves versus how he reacts. From the outside, if we don't have psychological knowledge, we're going to mistakenly believe that what's happening matters more to the others than to Lucas himself. But precisely when someone doesn't express either pain or anger, that's when sometimes we need to be even more concerned.
I'm sorry, man.
I remember a course on crisis, emergency, and disaster psychology where they asked us this in class. Imagine there has been a very serious fire with injured people, even some deaths, and you arrive there as an emergency psychologist. There is a group of neighbors who have survived the trauma, the event, and while everyone else is screaming, crying, and clearly devastated, there is one person sitting on the curb, staring into space, silent, with a blank look. Who would you help first? And the thing is, we usually empathize with and pay more attention to people who express pain, to those who openly ask for help. When, in fact, the person who hasn't processed what happened, who remains in a state of shock, who denies feeling bad or even denies what happened, is often the one at greatest psychological risk. And Lucas is probably in a certain state of dissociation. The scene is too intense. What just happened is more than his mind can handle. And of course, so as a survival strategy, he decides to disconnect.
That's life. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. It's no big deal.
No, man. And in this video, yes, we're going to talk about defensive altruism, something we haven't discussed yet on this channel. But clearly in this scene, you can see a lot of defense mechanisms happening one after another.
You understand why she let herself go with Oscar? Everyone has the right to do that with someone else. To do one thing or another, you have to weigh what benefits you, what doesn't, and what you have. And if this is worth more to her, I'm not the one to decide for her.
For example, what you just saw is an example of rationalization and intellectualization. The phrase, "that's life," sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Or the phrase, "well, anyone has the right to let themselves be led by someone else, I can't do anything about it." They are a perfect example of how we tend to use theories, sayings, concepts, rational explanations to give meaning or a mature and cold interpretation to what is happening to us. We say things that are true, but with the goal of convincing ourselves that since there is a logic to what is happening, I can allow myself not to connect with it emotionally, not to feel it.
I'd be lying if I told you it doesn't hurt to see these images, that they don't affect me. Background music. They just broke my heart.
But even though Lucas is being defensive, even though he's trying not to connect with his pain, he's rationally aware that it hurts him. It's not that he's denying that it matters to him or affects him. Lucas can say he's broken, but he still can't break down.
I'm broken. I'm shattered.
There's a big difference between naming pain and letting ourselves connect with it. Has it ever happened to you that a friend is telling you about something terrible they've been through, but they say it without any emotional content? As if what they're telling you didn't happen to them, as if it happened to someone else. That defense mechanism is called emotional isolation, and it's super common.
He truly doesn't know the woman he lost. He'll return.
Often after a breakup, infidelity, or abandonment, what some of us call narcissistic repair arises. An attempt to restore that humiliation, that loss of place, maybe that comparison with a third person, maybe that fall from the fantasy of being chosen by your partner. I'm not saying that Lucas is a narcissist, not at all. This defense means that, for example, when your partner doesn't value you, when they abandon you, when they betray you, when they treat you poorly, it's normal for your self-esteem to feel hurt, questioned, shaken. So we usually take actions, adopt beliefs, or have thoughts to try to restore that self-esteem.
All of this is helping me realize the kind of person and the kind of man I'm becoming.
Which can be done in a healthy way. For example, that person who, after a breakup, starts exercising again, takes care of themselves again, starts dating again, or as in the case of this scene. The phrase, "he doesn't know the man he lost," is somehow trying to reverse that hurt. It goes from being an "I wasn't enough for my partner" to a "my partner doesn't know what they're missing out on."
I doubted myself, I doubted how I could act, how I could stop acting, and I think I'm being a gentleman, I'm respecting her in every way.
In the end, it's a defense of self-esteem. But be careful, like any defense mechanism, it can also be used in a more pathological and problematic way. Like those people who vengefully try to hook up with an ex's friend just to hurt them. Or people who maybe make changes in their lives that they don't genuinely want, just for the sole purpose of proving their superiority. I'm sure you've seen someone who, after a breakup, starts doing some pretty weird things just to prove they're above it all.
Because for me, she has crossed a line there's no coming back from. I've lost all the trust I had in her.
But anyway, all these defenses we've seen so far are pretty common on the island. There's nothing unusual.
So you already think the relationship is over? I should reflect more calmly, but this is already...
Here comes the real reason why I decided to make this video. Pay attention.
Sorry for what I'm about to do. I'm not sure if it's wrong, forbidden, or will bother you.
But she goes from saying that they're broken, that she's lost trust in her partner, that it will never be the same again. Those are very harsh things to say.
The wind is nasty, I see you're cold, and if you allow me, I'd like you to bundle up a little more.
She goes from focusing on her relationship, on her pain, on what she's going to do about it.
I'm not cold, I'm fine, but I would like to.
When she gets up with a big, joyful smile, full of kindness.
Altruism, so she'll take care of you a little more? Well, I appreciate it, Lucas, and I'll help you. Really.
And giving his shirt to the presenter so she doesn't get cold. Also, when he returns to his seat, if you notice, he keeps his composure, as if he wants to prove to himself that everything is under control. But the presenter, who has seen dozens of infidelities, can clearly detect what's happening here. And despite appreciating that nice gesture, she wants to bring Lucas back to what's important, which is that his partner has been unfaithful to him.
I want you to keep talking about yourself.
This is something extremely common in people who are very guarded. When the conversation touches on a difficult, uncomfortable, or painful point, you see how they try to shift the attention elsewhere and how they try to escape using their favorite defense mechanism. Each person, each personality type tends to use specific defense mechanisms. That's why identifying them is very interesting for self-awareness. It tells you about your fears, your insecurities,
your emptiness. I have nothing to say, Sandra. I'm a person who finds it hard to break. I don't break in the moment. I'm not aware of that.
And here we have the core. When Lucas is asked to talk about himself, he can't, but he can take care of others. This is a very brief summary of what defensive altruism is. When the focus is directed toward their inner world, toward their pain, the person shifts the focus of attention to the other person's needs. Lucas has just been hurt, but he quickly takes on the role of the caregiver.
Lucas, thanks for the shirt. Of course, Sandra, it looks great on you. You look handsome.
He is not able to stay in that position of being hurt, vulnerable, fragile, damaged, needing help and care. So, for that reason, he turns it around and takes on the role of protector, caregiver, a noble and mature person who supports others. And this is what characterizes a person with defensive altruism. When you ask them to talk about their pain, about themselves, and to address their problems, they can't. But when the opportunity arises to help, to care for, and to organize someone else, that's when they function well.
I hope at least this guy treats her well, that he truly loves her the way I love her.
This is also reflected in something very curious. He worries more about his partner, who has been unfaithful to him, than about himself.
Whatever she decides, he can't do anything about it. It's her decision, and if that makes her happy, I'll be happy for her.
And even when his friends try to cheer him up, support him, take care of him, he turns it back on them. Look at that.
We're with you, man. No, don't worry. Everything's fine, guys. I'm serious, man, guys. Everything's perfect.
A moment ago, he says he's devastated, and the next second, he says everything's perfect. It's very interesting to see how he tries to calm his friends down to actually calm himself down. How he tries to convince others that nothing's wrong, so he doesn't have to suffer.
Come on, stay strong with your footage, you with yours. Always. We're together. Listen.
Notice how striking this is, that he even starts supporting his teammates with their respective images. It's something like, I can't stand everyone looking at me as someone who's broken, so I tell them to be okay, and that I'll worry about them. The problem here isn't that Lucas is altruistic or mature or protective. It's not that this behavior is wrong, per se.
You said you gave up everything for her. I left my home, I left my family, I left my job, I left my friends, I gave up everything, and you know what? I gave up everything, and you know what? That I don't regret it.
The problem comes when we do these things to erase our pain, and also to erase our right to be cared for and to be looked after too. And as the icing on the cake, when her partner Christian hugs her to give her support, it's Lucas who gives her those strong pats of encouragement. It seems like she's encouraging her friends to protect them from the pain of seeing their friend feeling bad. And I have to admit, I've done this quite a few times myself. When I've told a loved one something really hard that happened to me, seeing their reaction of sadness, pain, or worry, the roles immediately switched, and I became the one comforting the other person. It's a complete role reversal. And seeing yourself as someone vulnerable, as a victim, as someone who's hurt, can sometimes be hard. Has that ever happened to you? Tell me in the comments. Now let's go with a more theoretical explanation about this defensive altruism. Alright, defensive altruism is just another defense mechanism. It is activated to escape from one's own needs, one's own shame, one's own anger, and one's own fear of abandonment. On a practical level, it would be something like this. I can't connect with what I need, so I focus on what you need. I can't stand being in the place of the wounded person, so I put myself in the place of the caregiver. As I always tell you, it's not so much what you do, but where you're coming from and why you do it. And there can always be a very different psychological background behind the same behavior. A person who cares from a healthy place can take care of others, but can also be cared for. She can be there for the other person without losing touch with her own tiredness, her own desires, her own anger, her own limits. Healthy caregiving is circular. Sometimes you give and sometimes you receive. There is reciprocity. On the other hand, a person with defensive altruism takes care of others in order not to feel, to avoid having to think about her own emotional issues. In this way, caring for and protecting others ends up becoming an identity position. You need to take on the role of the helper, feeling useful, good, needed, mature, protective. In defensive altruism, attention shifts from your own pain to the needs of others. I can't look at my own wound, so I look at yours. I can't handle my own collapse, so I become the support for the group. And it's very interesting to see how a person can detect the needs of others with extraordinary ability and know what to do to fix their problems. She knows what her partner, her mother, her friends need, but she gets blocked by the simplest question. And what do I need? About what?
You're feeling about what you feel.
There are people who have an extraordinary sensitivity to other people's pain and a total blindness to their own.
I promise what happens to me doesn't matter. I can handle anything.
But it's not that they don't feel, it's that they don't know where to look. The focus has been outside for so long that the inner world becomes inaccessible. What?
That I'll have to think about myself and all that I'll do it, or at least I'll try.
And besides, this defense mechanism has a particularity. Socially, this attitude is very well regarded. It's not questioned, and in fact, it's reinforced. Few people are going to see your dedication, your care, your maturity, your always being okay as something problematic. Few people are going to tell you, hey, don't take care of me so much, let me take care of you too. Hey, don't be so nice, get mad at me, tell me no, set boundaries with me. In fact, it's common for people to take advantage of those who have this kind of defensive altruism, because in the end, this attitude can be very convenient for those around them. And in fact, when those people go to therapy and start making changes, complaints can come up, people might say you've changed, you've become selfish, and even accusations against the psychologist. Greetings to Monse. Let's not forget that psychologists destroy families. But anyway, besides lending shirts to presenters, what other behaviors can they have? What can help us identify defensive altruism? Let's take a look. I'm going to throw some phrases at you to see if you relate. You feel guilty when you rest. You feel ashamed when you ask for help. You notice other people's needs before your own. When you're feeling bad, your instinct is to find someone to take care of. You feel uncomfortable when someone tries to take care of you. You feel empty or anxious when there's no one who needs you. When someone gives you something, you feel uncomfortable and like you owe them something. You tend to connect with people who are fragile, chaotic, or emotionally demanding. You feel more valuable when you are indispensable. You don't know what role to take when the other person doesn't need you. Probably a few people felt called out. But I'm going to take this opportunity to say something important. You tend to take care of others more than yourself when you feel vulnerable or when you feel bad. Having this defense mechanism is not something bad or pathological in itself. Everyone has certain defense mechanisms. We turn to them when we are feeling bad, insecure, and so on. It's something normal, it's something functional. They're there for a reason. The problem is when this goes from being an occasional defense to a rigid pattern. When it becomes your identity, your way of presenting yourself to the world, of relating to people by default. That's when psychological problems can arise. Emotional exhaustion, anxiety, hidden depression, the kind that doesn't seem like depression because the person keeps functioning normally. Unconscious resentment toward other people that shows up in passive-aggressive behaviors. Because when someone always gives and never asks, it doesn't mean that deep down they don't expect anything from others. Sometimes they don't admit their expectations of others, which starts to take a toll. Many people who are focused on caring for others can't connect with their own anger, with their aggressiveness. They don't allow themselves to think, I'm fed up, I also want to be cared for. I also want to be able to receive help. Because in the end, those thoughts are incompatible with the image of a good person that they need to maintain. So the anger transforms. This inhibition of anger and this disconnection from their own emotions often leads these people to choose the wrong relationships, to end up in very unequal relationships, even abusive ones. And also, of course, identity crises, realizing you've built a life that doesn't make you happy. And speaking of identity, let's see where all this comes from. As you know, these patterns don't appear out of nowhere. They are learned in relationships. And sometimes they are learned so deeply that they end up becoming what you think you are, your identity, and the way you relate to others and present yourself to the world. When in reality, it's just what you learned you had to be to feel emotionally safe. Each case is unique, but we usually find some common elements behind these profiles. First of all, people who saw that the only way to be relevant to others is to be someone useful, a caregiver, a mediator, a problem solver. Because only when they took on that role were they seen, cared for and loved. You're so responsible, always looking out for everyone. You're the one who never causes trouble. You're so good. Identity is built around that role. And by being in that role, the question that lingers in the air is terrifying. Who am I if I don't take care of others? If your identity is built on being useful, the absence of someone to care for causes anxiety. But besides giving identity, this attitude, this defensive altruism, also appears as a strategy to hold on to relationships, to avoid abandonment. If I'm indispensable, you won't leave me. If I take care of you, you have a reason to stay with me. Secondly, we also have people who learned that caring was safer than needing or asking. Because when they asked for help or showed their pain, they felt ignored, rejected, invalidated, and even humiliated. So connecting with pain and expressing it becomes something threatening. As a result of these experiences, each person develops their own particular strategies. And the main characters in this video found that focusing on caring for others helped them forget about their own pain. Suppress your inner world and direct your attention outward. Your own emotions are a nuisance, something inappropriate, while the emotions and needs of others are legitimate and deserve attention. Many people with this pattern feel ashamed of being unwell, of needing help, of being cared for. It makes them extremely uncomfortable. They feel ashamed when they can't be as strong as their ideal image demands. So taking care of others becomes a way to regulate themselves. I feel very uncomfortable and very ashamed when I feel vulnerable. So I go back to my position of strength by focusing on helping others. I'm prouder of myself when I'm the one helping than when I'm the one being helped. Does all of this sound familiar? Let's look at some tips to work on it. Alright, you're probably tired of hearing people say things like, put yourself first, learn to say no, set boundaries. Because sometimes those phrases don't really create change. They just create guilt. Because they're asking you to change a behavior without first addressing and working on the purpose that behavior serves. It's like demanding someone to stop using a cane without first addressing why they're limping. Deep, real, and transformative work doesn't come from commands or techniques, at least not from my point of view. What truly moves us is asking ourselves questions and exploring them. What comes up inside you when you don't take care? What image of yourself would break if you needed help? Who did you learn to take care of too soon in your life? Who were you in your family when you weren't being useful, appropriate, or convenient? What anger are you not allowing yourself to feel? What part of you is left out when you always limit yourself to taking the role of the strong one? These questions go to the root. Because the goal isn't for you to stop caring without reason. Caring can be a genuine and valuable part of who you are, so there's no need to eliminate it. The goal is for caring to stop being the only way you have to connect and to feel good about yourself. That you can care, but that you can also need. That you can give, but also be okay with receiving. In that sense, there's an exercise that's incredibly simple, but for these people, it's very uncomfortable, which is simply to practice asking for and accepting help. And that when someone offers you help, support, or asks about you with genuine interest, instead of immediately rejecting it, or changing the subject, or diverting attention, or switching those roles, you simply stay there, receive it, accept it, and let yourself be cared for. And observe what happens in your body and in your mind when you change that pattern, what comes up in your head at that moment. That will give you very relevant information, much more than any technique or any obligation to change your behavior. Anyway, as you can see, defensive altruism has 3 layers and all 3 are very important. The first one is the visible one. It's taking care of others instead of letting them take care of me. The second layer is taking care of and attending to others and protecting them to avoid connecting with what I feel and who I am. And the third layer is the relational one. I take care because at some point in my life I learned that this was my safe place in relationships. The scene with the contestant from Temptation Island has been just an excuse to explain this concept. We don't know his psyche or what's going on in his head. We're not diagnosing him, of course. But his case reminds us that defenses appear to protect us. And for a while, it's okay for them to protect you, especially when the situation is overwhelming. The important thing is that when you come out of that moment of threat, you can let go of your defense and face reality and your emotional pain. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm looking forward to reading your comments. And I'm leaving you a video about the savior complex next. If you like this one, you'll probably be able to go a little deeper with that one. Bye.